You don't lack talent, you just lack positioning. I want you to hear that. Today, I want you to feel it deep down inside. You do not lack talent. Do you hear me? You don't. What you lack is positioning. Today, we're going to help you with that. Hi, my name is Steve Kidd. I am a third generation minister, international best-selling author of 41 books and counting. I've had the amazingly cool, wonderful privilege of working with over 5,000 people, helping them in the process of writing, publishing, marketing their books to bestseller, and all the things that go beyond that. Because bestseller is a day one launch strategy. Bestseller is where we start, but it is not where we end. It is the credential and the concepts from everything that is then going to come after that to make the impact in the world that you absolutely can, should, and are going to make in this world. And I'm so excited to be able to share that with you today because though I've worked with doctors, lawyers, nurses, stay at home moms, startup companies, all those kind of things, what I looked forward to more than anything else is just simply being able to sit down with you and talk to you about where you are, what you've learned, what kind of stuff you're going through, and what can be done to take you to the level that you've always wanted to be at. And maybe in some ways it's even felt a little bit elusive to you. We absolutely have what's necessary, and we're going to walk you through that today. Some of you, you either watched it or you can see on my different live streams that I'm on, my different social medias that I'm on. I practiced my signature talk live. It wasn't perfect, and that's good because really your signature talk should never feel perfect. If you go into the talk with the I got this feeling, you're not going to have that subtle check in our spirit that we need to keep us humble enough to really be of service. But also, we want to have the capability to be able to read the room, to shift, to move, to pivot, to do the things that the room needs that day. Um, but while I was doing it, there was a couple of really cool realizations that I have had, and it's not new. It's things that I've even talked to you about before. But it's really important that you understand. Just like you, most all experts don't have weak ideas. They just have ideas that are invisible. They have ideas that haven't been brought to light. Hey, YouTube guy, glad to have you here with us. Um, you know, the ideas that we bring out into the world are needed, they're necessary. You are important, you're valuable. The world absolutely needs you. But a lot of times we don't really share it. And that doesn't just come from going live. I can tell you, after having done this for almost a year now, every single day, I'm trying to think if I've missed even one day. Some of them have been short, a minute or even 30 seconds. But, I've tried to come out to you live every single day. It's a lot of work. There's a lot of effort to it. And a lot of especially when you're doing long form video, 15, 20 minutes that we normally go, or like yesterday, we went an hour. When you're doing that kind of stuff, it's limited return. On the one hand, if you go for an hour, you're going to have, like I did yesterday, you're going to have an opportunity to have several hundred, even possibly people that are going to pop in and see the thing and then pop back out. The flip side to it is that when you go long like that, hey, Food Ninja Junior, glad to have you here with us. When you go long like that, the probability that people are watching all of it is pretty slim. It's pretty normal that if you, and it wouldn't matter. You could have, and I did this one. I intentionally didn't create it as an event and publish it and market it and do all those kind of things because I knew I was practicing. I knew it was brand new for me, and I wasn't really trying to make a big ta-da out of it. I was just wanting to do it live and practice it, on a timer and a clock. And I've done it a couple of times, and I probably will do it again a couple more times when I was offline. One time I did it with Zoom on and nobody in the room. And another time when I did it, I just literally was just me sitting back. I wasn't even, standing or doing any of those kind of things. I was just sitting back and just going through slide by slide and kind of working out the pacing and the rhythm and those kind of things. Um, but the real thing that became so apparent, and I've said it many, many times before. Yeah, absolutely. And I totally tell you and would tell you, do practice live. It's one of the best things you can do. And whether somebody joins or they don't, that's good, because visibility comes from our three C's. Clarity. You got to really be clear on that message. The practice allows you to do it. And when you practice it out loud in a live environment, it comes out differently than when you're, like, for example, the time I told you, I was just going through the slides. I was sat back in my chair and, that kind of thing. There's a different energy of that. There's a different thing of that. I can also tell you that one of the ways that I practice is I will kind of go through it when I'm laying in the bed at night. Not the whole pitch necessarily, but certain elements of it. You want to see yourself in that place. You want to envision yourself in that place. But you also don't want to get caught up in the vanity metrics of, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10 million people saw it, because that's really, especially when you're talking practice, that's not what it's for. And the truth of the matter is even when you have your video as a main component of your social media strategy, you really would rather get 1, 10, 100 people at the most, really, that are really truly into what you're doing. Now, yeah, you're going to eventually build to the place where you're going to have 1,000, 10,000 on, your live. And you then need to make sure that the offer that you make allows you the ability for 1, 10, 100, 1,000, 10,000 people to be able to take advantage of and want to buy into that offer. You've probably seen online people that have talked about how, um, they made $3,000, $300,000 this week, or they did a launch, and like Dean Gracioso sold, I forget, the number was obnoxious. It was like several million copies of his book in the first 24 or 72 hours or what it was. But the part of that they fail to teach you is all the days, weeks, months, years of building that community and all the buildup that they did for that 24 hours. They want you to believe that system, that formula that they're sharing with you for, this is how I did it, and now join my $100, $10,000 program, and I'll walk you through exactly what I did. They want you to believe that if you just pay that money, whatever that amount is. I remember some years ago, I was at an event, and the guy's talk was really good. Okay, I'm not taking anything from how great his talk was, and basically his pitch at the end of it. And most of my pitches are more invites to, hey, let's go further. I like that, interacting with people, giving them some things that they can really take away versus just a hardcore sales pitch. But his particular pitch was, for $10,000. Well, no, I'm sorry, for $100,000, I guarantee you I'll make you $1,000,000. And I was like, well, I will pay $100,000 to make $1,000,000 any day of the week. If you can 10x your money, then it's just a matter of how do you make the payments on that. How do you pay that money, whatever that amount is. It could have been $10 million, and you would find a way to to make that $10 million. If you're going to make 100 million out of that, you're going to 10x that number. Okay. Be careful about promises of 10x, because a good friend of mine one time, who's a multi-billionaire, his company was doing $10 billion a year, and the guy was all bragging about how he could 10x his company. He said, hey, I'd really like to know how you can 10x my company in this next year. because it's a $10 billion company. I mean, hey, if you can take a $10 billion company to $100 billion, shout that from the rooftops. Buy Facebook ads, tons of them, and every other social media, and just have that be. Here's what, yeah, $10 million is what his company was making annually. The only multi-billionaire that I've ever known personally, but really, really a super cool guy. It was so cool to just have him as a friend. Um, you know, Whatever level you're at. But we need to be careful of that, because usually, in most cases, what you really need to understand is we need to know how to get that first person. How do we get one raving fan, to use Seth Godin's phrase? How do we get one person that every time we bring something out, they want to buy it? Doesn't matter whether it's $5 or $5 million, they want to find a way to get it. And then how do we get to 10 people? And then how do we get to 100 people? And then really, if we have a solid base of 100 people, especially if we have a solid base of 100 people that we can bring out, let's even just use a really low number. Okay. Let's use $100. All right. Let's not talk about $10,000. Yeah, I love that. If you could if you had 100 people that every time you put out your next $10,000 program, all 100 of them are raving and ready to get it. That's great money. That's $1 million every single time. Then my encouragement to you would be, how many times a month can those people spend that $10,000, and how quickly can you create those programs? It'd be a totally different concept. Most of us are in that phase where we do really great stuff, but we're not really seeing those brag online results that you see some of those bigger, really big name coaches, because they're not teaching you step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9, 10. They want you to see the results of step 100 and sell you a system based on, this is the process I did. No, he wasn't bragging about the $10 billion. In fact, it was funny because I'll tell you the whole story. So this kid was up on stage and he was like, anybody in this entire audience, I can 10x your company. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care how great your company is. I promise you, I can, within the next 6 months, 10x your company. Um, you know, and and my friend, he was in his 70s at that time. I mean, he was almost 80 then. We lost him during COVID, unfortunately, but and he's like, who has what they think is the most challenging company that they don't believe I could 10x their company. And my friend raised his hand. His name's Errol Abramson, by the way. This is not a made up person or some kind of story. I'm just telling you. Um, and Errol raised his hand and he said, "Oh, yeah, come on up here. I can totally help you." And so he came up on stage with the young man. And the kid said, no matter what you've got going on, I guarantee you I can 10x your company. And Errol said, that'd be really cool. Um, that would be really awesome. Um, and he said, so tell me a little bit about your company. And he told him a little bit about it. He goes, oh, that's really interesting. That one particular company happened to be a massive hedge fund. And he also was running at that time an also multi-billion-dollar stem cell research company at the particular time he was on stage. But I think he talked about the hedge fund company, because I know for sure that one was making about $10 billion a year. And so they went on, and then Errol said, he goes, I really want to know what you can do to 10x my company, because it's a $10 billion a year company. And the kid just kind of stopped. He's like, no, come on, quit kidding with me. He goes, no, he goes, it's a $10 billion a year company. There are people out in the audience that we can bring up that have worked with me, that, know me for enough years. And of course the kid couldn't 10x a $10 billion company. That's what we run into when we begin trying to overpromise and try to lean into that 10x thing. Not that I don't love the 10x thing, and not that if you're at $1, you shouldn't want to 10x that to $10, and then to $100, and then 10x that to 1,000, and then to 10,000, and then to 100,000, into $1 million. Once you start getting into those millions and tens of millions, expecting that you can do little things and 10x it becomes a little more difficult. but it also means that you built that one person, 10 people, 100 people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people, you know, and you've learned how to be able to create the systems. It also means that you have both the ability to afford it as well as you have a well-trained staff so that you can take an idea. I have another good friend of mine. I have lots of friends. I've been doing this for 40 years, so I've built a virtual digital Rolodex. Once upon a time, I actually had the still manual Rolodex on my desk because it was a fun conversational piece. Long after I was working in the internet space and it was all digital, I still had the manual Rolodex because it was cool. Like you said, it was a great conversation starter because a lot of people didn't even know what a Rolodex was. Um, but this particular guy was showing us posts that he had done on YouTube, shorts. They were like 30 to 60-second shorts that were getting like 20, 30 million views. And he was talking about the different AI systems that he was putting in place to do that and stuff. However, the other piece of it that he told us, and the part that you really need to hear, know, and understand is he had a staff of like 3 or 4 full-time people. He was just, in fact, in this particular case, they were AI generated ones. So they had taken and cloned him, his video, his voice, all of that kind of stuff. And so they could do all of it. And they were doing all of the research. They were doing all of the AI generation. And a lot of people who are doing really amazing things in AI, it's because they've got that already built. I want you to understand that at the stage you're at, right here, right now, there is opportunity for you. And it builds. It builds 1, then 2, then 3, etc. If you've ever felt unseen, it's because you really need to go back to the basics of talking to a person and then the next person. Way, way, way back in the day, way before the internet existed, because I've been doing this for 40 years in internet space since the days of the bulletin boards. Way, way back then, I had a person that was a sales trainer, was a friend of mine. And what they did every day is they committed to doing 10 sales conversations. Okay, 10 conversations with people that were their ideal client that they could talk to. And they had access to lists, and those kind of things. And they had 10 sticky notes that they stuck to the side of their monitor. Okay. I guess maybe it wasn't even their monitor now that I think about it, because it was before the days of the internet. So it must have been that they stuck it to the side of the phone now that I think about it. And they had the 10 of those. And as they made each call, and they didn't count, I call somebody and I didn't get a hold of them. As they made each call, with each person that they talked to, they took away one of those pieces of paper and stuck it over to the other side for, tomorrow. So like from one side of the phone to the other. Back in the old days, when you had that base for the phone, and the handle and all that kind of stuff. And every day they did 10 of them. And they wouldn't allow themselves to stop until they did that 10. For many of you, what you need to do is just even do that, just even with social media. And let's just go with 5. Who are 5 people that are in your friends list, that are part of a group that you're part of, that you could just reach out today, see what they're doing, and what could you do to add value to their life? Build your visibility. Sure, you can go on live every day like I do, and that's cool too. But whatever you're doing, intentionally build your visibility. Be cool with the one. Be excited about the one. Be excited when Food Ninja Jr. spends the whole time here with me. I appreciate you so much. And then the 2, and the 5, and the 10. Take it step by step. Now, if you're feeling invisible and you'd like some help knowing how to position yourself, just drop the word visible in the comments. And I would gladly love to talk to you about how you can get a little bit of visibility what things are holding you back from it, why they are, and what you can do to make that different. I'm so grateful to have you here with us. I appreciate you so much. Remember, good work doesn't fail, it does get lost, unless you're the one that makes the decision to do otherwise. And I hope you'll make that decision today. We'll be back again tomorrow. And until we're together again next time, I hope you have a great week.